Ladies and gentlemen, this is Garth Spears and video 3C, How Charisma Depends on Context. We'll be covering awareness and flexibility in this video, but just to remind you, in the last two videos, we first of all looked at the meaning of context, how it was all around us like water is around fish. And then I explained how we express ourselves in terms of context, and that means using protocols, channels and status to our advantage, but remembering to manage the risk of breaking protocols. With this video, we're going to explore these three boxes here. How awareness and flexibility is communicated at the contextual level. And we're going to start with this first box, outer awareness. I just need a little bit more space. That's better. It's all about being able to read situations like animals do, especially deers, for example. A deer is so acutely sensitive, really aware of all the messages from the physical environment. If even a twig snaps, its ears prick up and it's ready to gallop off. But we humans have to take in all the complex social messages as well, coming from protocols, the channels and the status. So the poker player is not just reading the situation, he's understanding it as well. The trouble is, reality is often contaminated. It's contaminated by negative thoughts that come from our subjective inner awareness. So let's move on to inner awareness. There are three main problems about this. I need a bit more space. Yep, that's better. Three main problems. There's the imposter syndrome, there's phobias and projections. I'll say a bit about each of these. So let's start with the imposter syndrome. These refer to people who in reality are highly competent, but they think that they're a phony. They think they're a fraud. They shouldn't be here, they're full of self-doubt, they don't deserve any applause or praise. And to my way of thinking, The Wizard of Oz sums this all up. I hope you've seen that wonderful film. Do you remember the lion, the scarecrow, the tin man? The lion believed he was a coward, the scarecrow thought he had no feelings, and the tin man thought he was stupid. And they were all on their way to search for the Wizard of Oz, who would give them courage and a heart and a brain, only to discover that they had these gifts all the time, and it was the wizard who was the real fraud. So people can feel overwhelmed when they go to university, for example. This august college that is just overwhelming makes them feel like they're a fraud or a phony. Or the graduation ceremony, for example, where the standing up on the stage, getting the applause, it makes them feel this phoniness. Or the networking party with all its hidden protocols, it's full of anxiety making. All these things bring on the fear of being found out. And what they've done is they've projected onto the reality of their competence a secondary reality of inadequacy. And phobias are very similar. People are afraid of all sorts of things that are in reality benign, from things like house spiders to simply being outside. This is called agoraphobia. But where charisma is concerned, it's our social anxiety or social phobias that charisma training will help to overcome, because both the imposter syndrome and the phobias are to do with projections. So let me say something now about projections. For example, let's say we've got to speak in public and we've got to do it on this stage. And here there's light here projected onto the stage. And this is similar to what we project onto the stage. We project our own fears. So instead of staying in the primary reality of I am on a raised platform speaking to a group of people on a subject that I know about, that's the primary reality. Instead, we're anxious, we have our heart beating, the sweaty palms, you know what I mean, and we move instead into a secondary reality made up of our interpretations and our projections. With the imposter syndrome and the phobias and social anxiety, it's as though we've projected monsters onto the context, onto the physical and social reality of the stage and the audience. So in charisma training, what we do is use many methods to be in primary reality, or at the very least, remove the negative and project a positive reality in its place, and thereby reach a state that we call self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is a state of competence, balance, and awareness. In other words, self-efficacy is your realistic belief in your ability to succeed in a particular situation, in a particular context. It's connected to self-esteem, but that is more an emotional skill, and I'll talk about that in the next videos. So let's move on now to flexibility. And I'll just get a bit more space. That's better. This is all about being a player. Being a player, not a bystander, not a spectator. Being in the game, being appropriate and sometimes breaking with protocols, and being what you might call appropriately inappropriate. But don't forget, manage the risk. And it's all about changing our roles and being playful about it and appropriate at the same time. It's like wearing the right mask for the right situation. And there are some people who find this is wrong. They find this distasteful. They say, no, we should be the same no matter what, they say. But we're always changing our behavior, depending on the context. For example, sometimes we're at a wedding, and you're going to dress differently, you're going to have a different role here, you're going to behave differently. Sometimes we're at a funeral. Or maybe sometimes we're a boss talking to a colleague. Or sometimes we're at a dinner party. And if you don't change your roles or your behavior or dress or take account of what's appropriate to these different contexts, we all just come across like we're nuts, absurd. So of course we change our roles and our behaviors all the time. We just have got to be good at it. All the world's a stage, said Shakespeare, and the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and a man in his time plays many parts. So, you might say, is charisma training about teaching us just to be actors? Listen, we're already actors. It's just that most of us are bad actors. And charisma training develops your playfulness so that you can have more freedom and control. Freedom to change roles and context, and control to be appropriate. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it. We've covered how charisma depends on context. Thank you for watching and listening, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video, video number 4, how charisma depends on emotions. Bye for now.